Maurice Nicol's Commentary, Volume 5, Amwell, May 2nd, 1953. The conjunction of the outer and inner divisions of centers. In the previous paper on 3 divisions of a center, namely into outer, middle, and inner divisions, some of the uses of middle division were mentioned. I will briefly recapitulate what was said. The middle division reasons and can reason in 2 directions. In one direction, it can reason about life as seen from the evidence of the senses, that is, from appearances. In that case, the ground is of its reason lies in the 5 senses. That is to say, the reasons from the external divisions, which is turned outwards to external life. By external life, I mean the life you see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, the life of the world and its manifold affairs, the life of appearances and things and people as they seem to the senses. All this is sometimes called the phenomenal world, makes up what people usually regard as reality. Do you also think that there can be no other reality than what is evident to your 5 limited senses? If you do, then your thinking is sensual and you have only a sensual mind. I am repeating all this because the question has to be faced by everyone and a definite conclusion come to, not a grudging conclusion accompanied by a shrug of the shoulders, but a thoughtful individual one. For if you regard reality as confined to the sense, the middle division will always look to the external division for truth and will not reason from it, and never turn to the internal division and discover another reality and order of truth beyond the sense. You will then be a dead man or a woman from the work point of view, however clever and efficient you are. In this connection, let me add here that we are surrounded by a descending scale of electromagnetic vibrations starting from cosmic rays about which our senses tell us nothing, save of one small octave for which we have a sense organ and which we call light. Are you going to say that some of the lower octaves of these electromagnetic vibrations traveling at 186,000 miles a second and passing imperceptibly through the room at this moment that can be transformed into audible sound vibrations by your radio do not exist? Can you then take your 5 senses at the criterion of reality? I repeat, can you? For some of you will not face the issue and shuffle about uneasily in your minds and keep your feet on the earth. I will not refer to the invisibility of thought and consciousness. We now pass on what might be called the greatest problem of esoteric teaching, namely the opening up of the inner divisions of centers and forming a conjunction of them with the outer divisions by means of a strong middle division which can look in both directions and comprehend lower level truth without regarding them as contradictions. Only through such a conjunction can the outer division with its sensual thinking and sensual truth, called facts, be controlled and take its right place in the scheme of man's possible development. For the inner division turned toward vibrations coming from higher centers, which are openings into higher levels of the ray of creation, is at a higher level than the outer division turned to the 5 senses, which open up to the world. And only what is at a higher level can control what is at a lower level. You cannot control the sensual, natural man in you save by the means of the developed non-sensual spiritual man. The middle division, which is the rational or reasoning division, stands in between the natural or the outer and spiritual or inner and can connect them. As I said before, I'm using these terms taken from an older system on purpose in place of the work terms moving or mechanical, emotional, and intellectual. The three divisions of the center can be compared to three men living in three rooms in you. These men are of different heights. The first lives in the external division, which is the outer room, and he should be the shortest. The second is the middle division, which is in the middle room, and the third in the inmost division, which is the inmost room. He should be the tallest. If the man living in the middle room sides solely with the outer man, you have no relationship with the inner man. Also, since the three rooms are not in the same floor, but above one another, if the middle man sides only with the external man, he always looks downward. On the other hand, if he sides with the inmost man, he looks upward, or rather tries to and despises the things of senses. If the middle man believes he must do either one or the other, he is weak. If this is the case with you, then you have a weak middle. If the middle man is strong, however, he does not confuse scientific with psychological truth. He sees each in its own scale and does not bring them into collision as opposites. He can look both downward towards the senses and the mind of the senses and its meaning and truths, and also upwards to this super sensual mind, which receives meaning and truth of another order from the higher centers that are continually working in us, but which we cannot hear. From these considerations, it becomes apparent that the extreme scientist who believes only in the truths of science and the extreme religionist who regards science as the work of the devil are both wrong. Each has a weak middle. Each looks only in one direction. Each despises the other. Each is one-sided. Gurdjieff once said that if one of the objects in this work is to unite the science of the West with the wisdom of the East, hitherto the East has to know no scientific development and the West no wisdom. Now, this work is not based on sensual thinking. It is not turned in that direction. It is not about things you can perceive. You cannot weigh and measure it or examine it with a magnifying glass or microscope. The direction is inwards, towards the inner parts of the centers. The order of truths it teaches are not of the same order as scientific truth. It is not about facts of the senses. It has to do with the facts of your being and with bringing these facts into the light of consciousness, which leads to change of being. Scientific knowledge does not change a man's being. A man of poor, mean, nasty being, or even definitely evil being, such a man who wishes only to get power at all cost over others, and in whom the love of rules is the chief love, can gain scientific knowledge and use it for destruction, and it will not change his being a jot. But self-observation, self-remembering, non-identifying, and non-considering can change a man's being if they are practiced together with other things that we are studying in this work.